actually.
Right, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mhairi Richardson from Tomrom Team Performance Coaching, or Performance Team Coaching. And I want to talk to you today about your forgotten teams. Quite often when I'm networking, people say to me, well, obviously we don't have a team, so what you do isn't really relevant to us. But today I want to talk to you about how what I do is relevant and how we're all part of bigger teams. So we have stakeholders who are invested in our business. We have customers, suppliers, family, employees or partners, referral partners, temporary partners, you know, where you create a temporary partnership to deliver a particular piece of work. There's community, and then there's investors and government. Investors and government are usually separate, so it should actually be 7 stakeholders. But for the purpose of this, I don't really want to do too much around them. So we have all of these people who we impact on their business as much as they impact on us. And what I want to talk about is how you improve your relationships with them when you start to think of them as part of your wider team. When you're building a team and you want to get the best out of them, there are lots of team models that you can use, and this is a favourite of mine. This is, you don't call him Lencioni, but I can't say it the way he says it, and this is the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So he did a lot of research around what makes teams fail. So these are the 5 dysfunctions. So a lack of, absence of trust, the fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. Now, I could go into each of those things for you, but I actually like to look at it the other way around, and this is the positives from those dysfunctions. So these are all the things that you need to create good teamwork. So at the bottom of the triangle, we have trust, and without trust, all relationships will fail. You have to develop a level of trust within any kind of relationship. So for me, that's always the biggest part. When I'm working with teams, it's what we always start with. We start with how they feel in the team, and we work on developing and building the initial relationships. And the more you work with them, the stronger those relationships become. It says about vulnerability without fear of repercussions. So that's really your safe space, creating a safe space, which sounds a bit fluffy. But if you think about some of the relationships that you have, or your colleagues that you work with, it's that you feel that you can say what's really going on in your life without them judging you. And it means that you can show them who you truly are, and talk about the things that you're struggling with. Conflict, it's important to have conflict in a strong relationship. It means if you've built trust, you can challenge people's decisions, their thoughts, how they are approaching problems, but in a constructive way, so that you generate strong debate. You have a great diversity of thought. A good team has a wide diversity of thought, so there will be conflicts. People will not see things the same way, but it's how you deal with those conflicts that makes you a strong team. Achieving commitment is you've been through the conflict process and you agree on what you're actually committing to as a team. So there's a real clarification of what you're trying to achieve, what the relationship is, what the standards of behaviour are within your team, and you all commit to that. Accountability. Accountability is around sticking to the commitment, really. So, you know, you've made a commitment, you said this is what you're going to do, and so do it. But it's also about holding each other accountable. So if you were in a successful team, you would, so sporting teams are the easiest analogies to give. But if you've made an agreement that you're going to use a certain pattern of play or a play, and one member of the team doesn't do that, then in a strong team, you should be able to say, you know, you're not playing to the playbook. Why are you not playing to the playbook? We need to discuss that because this is the agreed pattern. And then right at the top, you've got results. And in the reverse, in the dysfunctions, if you don't do all of those 4 things, then you will stop focusing on results because you're arguing with each other and you're not holding each other accountable. So you need to maintain a strong focus on results, and they must be clear on what those results are and how everybody in the team benefits from those results. If you were to take this model as an individual, for an individual, they can focus solely on results because they already trust themselves, have internal arguments, commit to themselves, and are accountable to themselves. So as an individual, you can just drive for results. But when you're a team, you have to have these other building blocks to make sure that you deliver overall. Because if everybody in the team is only focusing on their own results, you won't get the output that you're looking for. Okay, so that was the lecture on how to build a strong team. So now I really want to talk about customers, and this is the bit where I'd really like some feedback from you guys. I think there's quite a lot of content out there around making sure you're engaging with your customers at the moment. It's a difficult situation. Everybody is finding it difficult. And all I'm trying to do is reframe that into thinking of your customers as a team, part of your team. Has anybody been doing this, reaching out to their customers? What sort of results and impact are you having from that?
Do you mean recently or ever?
Recently, really. I mean, ever will do, but recently would be better.
Okay, does anybody want to answer that? Or?
I can go for that one. I've made it a policy to contact all my customers, even the ones who are mainly furloughed, just to try to make sure that they know I'm actually there, and I might be able to share some of the information I get from other customers to help them on the way.
Yeah, I mean, and that's absolutely it. It's if you don't have a conversation, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know.
Ashish has got his hand up. He's very polite, Ashish. Ashish.
Yes, actually, since all these started, I twice, in fact, I have got in touch with all my customer base, and they have appreciated the effort, and on the back of it, I got some work as well from them, and I have actively asked for referral as well because they are the one who seen how I work and everything, and I have got in fact one new client as well, so it's all worth it.
Yeah, but it's also, and that's fantastic that you've got extra work from it, but, and I'm not necessarily saying that you should do this to get extra work. It's about building the long-term relationship with the customer, because they may not be able to give you work today, but they'll remember that you checked in with them.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, and you talk to them about the bit about update them with what you do know. This goes back to maybe not such extreme circumstances as we're working in now, but anybody who's worked in a customer service orientated industry, the most frustrating thing for a customer is not having any information or having an expectation that you're going to respond in 5 minutes and you're not going to respond for a week. And what holds people back is, well, I'm not going to ring them because I don't have all the answers. But actually, if you ring them and tell them what you do know, you know, you are just sharing that little bit of knowledge, saying, I'm sorry I don't have the right answer, but this is what we're doing and this is what we do know. And again, it's just building that relationship and making them feel that you're keeping them in the know. the fear of ringing a customer to tell them what they don't want to hear is something that, you know, really has to be overcome in customer service. Because actually, if you're saying, well, I have got this information for you, this would be really useful. I don't have all of the answers, but we are working on that, and this is what we've done so far. And at the moment, it's about, as I said, you know, being able to help them in ways that you don't normally, you know, connecting them with other people, perhaps, listening to their problems that they're having. So it is taking that focus off of you a little bit and putting it onto them, and understanding what their issues are.
Step Charles has got his hand up.
Oh no, I was just saying, yeah, hey. No, I've been getting in touch with my customers. Like, majority of my work is cheerleading, and although I'm not taking photos, I've got in touch just saying, look, we're still here, rah, rah, rah. But I've found adding the personal touch works very well. And I've now, instead of a photographer, it's sort of a mental health boost. I've had parents contacting me asking if I can share photos of their daughter on social media just to build their spirits. So, yeah,
which you wouldn't have thought of being an issue, you know, or something that people would even have wanted.
No.
You know, so.
Yeah. No, it does work.
So, how many of you have been reaching out to your suppliers in the same way as you do your customers?
Yeah.
I think I do a lot of work within procurement, and obviously suppliers are everything to them. Everything they do is around engaging with their suppliers and creating long-term relationships. When I first started in business, that was not how you treated your suppliers. You know, your suppliers were people that you were, you know, you left waiting at the door for 20 minutes rather than speak to them, and you just beat them down to give you the best deal. But this is a much stronger approach, is to treat your suppliers as people who are invested in your business. At the end of the day, if you're not buying from them, then you're impacting their financial situation as well. So has anybody reached out to their suppliers and had any conversations about, you know, how they're diversifying or anything that they're doing?
I haven't, but it struck me the other day that maybe I should just get in touch with the venues that I use, because I guess they're you know, they're a major supplier to me in normal circumstances, and it just crossed my mind that, you know, how are they doing? You know, what's happening with them? I know one has shut down, but yeah, it just might be worth just reaching out and saying, you know, hope things are okay. Looking forward to getting back, you know, on track with you guys afterwards. Just to, you know, just to connect with them, because I like to try and build a relationship with the venues rather than just it be a functional, transactional thing. So yeah, so so you just reinforce that's something I should probably do, just sort of see how they're getting on.
Anybody else?
And I spoke to some, not all, including my accountants, but yeah, I think I should now. I can clearly see there are 4 or 5 businesses where I can just ring up and ask how they are doing and stuff like that. So yeah, I haven't thought about that before.
I mean, it's about understanding it as a different relationship, as more reciprocal. I think, and again, update them with what you know. Listen to what, you know, their challenges are, because you might know somebody somewhere else who's actually, you know, can help them out. I mean, the really obvious one is to contact them regarding payment terms and things like that. You know, sometimes people will say, oh, well, they'll never, you know, they're always really inflexible on their terms. But you might find if you've built a relationship, and you explain your situation, that there might be a different response from them now. Okay.
I was going to say it builds on the relationship we have working with local suppliers and customers, because obviously in this environment where, you know, potentially we might need to help each other out, if you're local, then it's a lot easier than sort of like trying to get in contact with somebody that's sort of like 200 or 300 miles away. And I think it just helps. So I know we've had a lot of support from our local suppliers, so that's been a real sort of like help when we've been working from home and things like that at all.
somebody I know is a photographer actually, but not a doorstep photographer. He was recently, just after it had happened, just after we'd gone into lockdown, he got an email from one of his customers actually, saying, and it was, you know, something to do with his invoice, and you know, so he didn't open the email because he thought, oh, this will just be them telling me they're not going to pay me. And then eventually he opened the email, and it was to say that you know, we understand that small businesses are really struggling at the moment, so we've paid your invoice 2 weeks early.
Wow.
You know, so it, you know, and how long will he remember how fantastic that was that they did that? You know, it's sort of those small things. Okay, so your next team is your family. For those of you who've ever listened to my why I'm a team performance coach, you'll know that I was born into a team. I'm one of 4 children born in 6 years, and I only know how to be part of a team. I don't know how to be on my own at all. So your family rely on you for lots of things. They're probably in small businesses quite often the people that get forgotten. But now the current situation is bringing family very much into your working world. And so it brings into focus how important it is for you to include them to some degree in what's going on, or to at least download to them little bits of, you know, why you're frustrated or why this is difficult. And if it's the situation is having serious financial impacts, obviously that's, you know, going to impact on your family too. And again, you know, ask them how they're doing, how, you know, what they're finding difficult. I had to be working from home 18 months ago, having worked at the centre of a very busy office for all of my working life, and that was really hard. And now I have to work at home with my partner working at home as well, all the time, and that adjustment has been not so big because he does work from home occasionally anyway, but it's still an adjustment. And you know, how are people finding, and I know Ashish, you do a lot of your work from home anyway, but you know, how are other people finding that they are relating with their family differently now they're in lockdown? No?
We have to fight for space on the kitchen table for all the laptops that are around.
It is a change for sure. Like my wife worked part-time in school as well, and now we have to sit against each other the whole day along with the children. So yeah, it is. But yeah, some people are enjoying, some people are not so enjoying. So it's mixed kind of a feeling, isn't it?
I've loved it. Like, I've been able to connect with my 4-year-old even better because I've been on the road for the past 9 months, barely seeing her, and yeah, all this coming to a halt. I've been wrestling her, she's been beating the crap out of me, so it's great.
Well, we all have that feeling every now and again, Charles, about you.
Oh, cheers.
Sophie's got her hand up. Sophie, do you want to ask your question or make your comment?
It's actually I'm going to have probably the entirely opposite view. It's really quite bizarre because me and my partner only started living together within the last couple of months. And actually, having this time where we're both home, because he's been furloughed, so he's not working. And I only started working for initially about 3-4 weeks ago now. But there was a 3-week period where, you know, because we'd both worked such long hours before, that we actually sat down and we were like, oh, I remember you. And I feel like we have just totally reconnected on an absolutely different level. And now, you know, if I'm working longer days or, you know, when I'm doing my extra stuff, there's just a brand new level of support because we get it now. It's actually strengthened like everything for us.
Well, and that's really what I'm getting at is, you know, when I talked about diversity of thought, and actually your family can add a different perspective on what you're doing, and they can, you know, you know, obviously they can improve your mental health and how you're feeling about what's going on, but they, you know, they can actually offer different perspectives that you might not have considered before. So I think that's something really useful. But again, I mean, you know, I shouldn't have to talk to you about building trust within your family. I would hope that already exists, as well as the conflict and the results. But I think it's challenging because every day is very similar at home and when you can't go out. So it is pushing more challenging conversations because you know, you want to talk about something else, something different, and then you might actually find you've got teenage children that they've got a really interesting perspective to share. You know, or, you know, any age. Well, no, maybe not 18 months old, but their perspective might be slightly different. But yeah, so, and it's remembering after this situation that those people are still there, and how your day has been impacts on them. And obviously they're your best team.
We've got a combination of, you know, deep conversations that are really intelligent and conversations that would probably have us committed to an insane asylum. It's very much one way or the other.
Absolutely, yeah. You're not running around your house wearing Union Jacks as capes though, are you?
Not yet, but it's a very real possibility that when I open the office door that I don't know what I'll come out to.
Okay, so then we come to employees and partners. The reason I've put partners is referral partners, business partners, people that you're collaborating with on a piece of work. Sort of those teams. Your employees obviously are a permanent team. Your referral partners are a permanent team, but sometimes we work in temporary teams as well. And you know, somebody raised this to me the other day that quite often they fail. Because you think it's a good idea to work together on a project, but you know, you don't necessarily clearly outline what the boundaries are of that project, what you're both getting out of it, what your expectations are, who is accountable to who is going to do what. So, and again, there's been a lot out on social media about looking after your people, so I'm trying not to cover the same kind of things. Now, obviously, and this relates to all times, not just the current situation. You should always let them know what's going on, and be transparent as much as you can with your employees. You know, there's been lots of difficult decisions, furloughing people, making people redundant, you know, on the basis that you know you're not going to come out of it, so we'll do it now, or before the government made the furloughing decisions. They're difficult decisions, they're uncomfortable decisions, and you know, I'm sure Mark will be much better qualified at talking about this than I am. But the more straight, the more honest and transparent you can be with people, they'll still be angry and they'll still be upset because it's still an awful thing to happen. But they'll value the fact that you were honest and upfront with them. Obviously, there's checking in, how are they doing, what are they finding difficult, asking how you can help. I get lots of calls around, you know, managing my remote team, and there's a great deal of assumption that, okay, so my team are all under 30, and so this is how people under 30 like to be handled. And it just doesn't work like that. You know, you need to speak to your people, you need to know them, you need to build that trust, you need to have that safe space where everybody feels comfortable. So it is doing one-to-ones, it is not just doing big team calls and setting out workloads, it's checking in with people, but also allowing them to check in with each other, keeping that spirit up. When we go back to referral partners, it's exactly the same thing. That's why I've lumped them together. How are they doing? What are you finding difficult? What can you do to help? Exactly as you would in those relationships that you've built. People who are in referral partner relationships, they have built up trust. It's not something that you create straight away. Takes a long time to build a referral partner relationship. So you should already be doing all of these things. Is this, I mean, I'm assuming that the majority of you have done all of these things, but is there anything anybody wants to share?
I think if you've got employees, for example, who are on furlough, they are feeling a bit isolated. Some of them are having a nice time, obviously, and others are getting stir crazy being with the kids or partners or whoever. But I think it's important that you can actually give that bit of an update on what's likely to be happening going forward, and also get their ideas, because they have had quite a lot of time to reflect. So there might be some ideas that they can come through with, and other ways they may decide it'd be easier to get back into the workplace, which could involve a degree of flexibility and some working from home if that's worked well for them.
Yes, it's going to be really interesting to see how many people, I think you're completely right. Some people will be, I can't wait to get back to work. I can't wait to be back in an office and not at home. And other people will be going, why do I have to go into the office? You know, my partner commutes into London 3 days a week. That costs £1,000 a month.
Mm.
You know, and adds to the congestion and so on and so forth. So one hopes that isn't something that he'll be going back to anytime soon, because actually, you know, we don't have any children. Apparently, I'm not that annoying. Well, we have a big house, so there's lots of room for him to go away. Yeah, but other people are thinking about what they can do to help, how they can make things different. And a lot of people that I've spoken to are what we're trying to say, sorry, it completely distracted me. You know, when they've been furloughed, they have really seen it as a precursor to redundancy, and have, you know, a lot of people have become really very depressed, and are struggling to find a way out of it, a motivation out of it. So that's, you know, those people really do need some support as much as possible.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, Mhairi, about your one-to-ones as well, and actually having that personal touch. Because I've actually found that if you do sort of arrange these one-to-ones, you're more likely to find out what they're actually struggling with, or what people are actually finding things difficult. Because I think having these open networking is great. It's lovely to actually see people, but it's usually in these one-to-ones where you actually figure out what it is that you can really do to help people. Yes,
I mean, as people say, you know, when you go networking, you're always putting your best face on, aren't you? You know, your best foot forward, and everything's great. I've had a fantastic week. Yeah. You know, but in a one-to-one, you have a tendency to go, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what day of the week it is. Is it Tuesday today? Exactly. I mean, thank God it is VE Day. At least it's made this week different. So, okay. And then we have community. Community will always have to be listed as a stakeholder, because as a business you impact on your wider community. For us, for a lot of us here, it's the BuzzCom community, but obviously you're also in a physical community. As I said earlier, my local community has been amazing, incredibly supportive, and engaged, but that's the joy of living in a strange village. But you've also, as a business, you contribute to society in a wider way, and understanding how you do that. How do you reach out to your communities? Anybody? Is anybody doing any community work with their business?
In terms of the business community, it's just been catch-up calls. I mean, just basically just reaching out and just asking how everyone's doing.
I think with these particular briefings, and also carrying on with the networking, it is a good opportunity to gauge how people are doing. You have one-to-ones, and also people will seem to have been quite honest in sharing some of their issues. I think that's been pretty useful, and I think that is going on within a lot of network groups.
I think it's stopping people feeling so isolated.
I think from a personal point of view, I knew very quickly once this happened that my business would kind of be in a bit of trouble with no income for a period. I think the one-to-one we had, Mhairi, was one of the last times I actually left the house before lockdown, and I decided to kind of just really push a kind of expert role on it by offering as much advice and guidance as I can for free. And some of you will see I do daily videos, and I've done 3 of these for Paul as well. And while that's not necessarily generating income for me now, I hope that when things turn and as things pick up, then my hope is I'll be seen as the expert, if you like, in the field. And certainly the YouTube channel, I'm getting about 500-600 views a day on all those. The LinkedIn posts are getting several thousand views and stuff. So I'm really hoping that by giving to the community now about an area which is a mystery to many people, borrowing money, but actually so important, as we've seen from the impact of the bounce back loan this week, that it will hold me in good stead, as well as giving some good advice to people.
No, you're doing an absolutely fantastic job, James. And yeah, I think.
I think I'd echo what James says as well, because ultimately, I think reaching out with the community can be difficult because without the face-to-face meetings. But ultimately, it's about. I took the view if people are going to hear about something, I'd rather they heard about it from me first. And that's put a lot of pressure on to sort of keep up to date with all the latest happenings and all the news going on with all the coronavirus and business impact. But I think it will pay off, because I've heard of like accounting firms that literally just furloughed all their staff and closed down over this. So I think what the coronavirus is doing is it's accentuating the gap between good and bad. Good businesses are getting better, and bad businesses are essentially stagnating and dying.
I think that's a valid point. Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the good and the bad. It's the ones who want to help against the ones who are offering a transactional service. And I think in accountancy, that's especially important.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So many accountants see themselves as pen pushers, but actually by being ahead of the chain, being a bit productive about it, which I know you have been, you're seeing. I bet you're getting customers. Obviously, you brought Sophie on board. You're showing proactivity, and I think that will really,
Yeah, I don't know if my economics are right on it, but the way I always look at a recession is like, the economy shrinks by 6%, it shrinks by 10%, but I know it's not quite the right way to look at it. The way I look at it is like, as long as I'm not in that 10% that shrunk. So I think there's always going to be this view: the sky is falling, and but you know what? It's pretty easy to be in the top 90% compared to. It is easier to be in the top 90% compared to being in the bottom 10%. And if you look at it that way, it's not the end of the world, but it is bad.
I think one of the things to remember is that this is where smaller businesses have such an advantage, is because they are so much more agile. They can respond. If you look at how quickly Paul has responded to the need to go to virtual networking, as opposed to other maybe larger, more significant groups that aren't doing that, I think that's just one example of how small businesses can be much more agile when things go wrong. They can make quicker decisions, and whereas a larger business has more people to worry about, and so it will tend to make more stilted decisions much more slowly. So small businesses really do have an advantage. They might not feel like it right now from a funding point of view, but actually I think they do, and I think it is what will bring Britain back is the small businesses who've shown such agility. Well, I'm hoping, James. You're frowning too much.
I think it is about still engaging, isn't it? So from a community aspect, whether it's your local village, town, community, or area you live, whether it's your business community. I think it's staying engaged, isn't it, at this time? And I think, you know, James is a great example of that. There are obviously others out there that, you know, whilst his bank balance might be suffering, I think you're setting the foundations for, you know, being very memorable and the expert in your field. And you were around broadcasting that and letting people know and what have you. So, you know, you're going to be forefront in people's minds when we come through this, and, you know, when funding gets back to normal or business get back to normal. So, yes, it's staying engaged, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and going back to the point earlier about, you know, local suppliers, you know, from a community point of view, you know, we make sure that we go into the village once a week and buy something from the independent people who, you know, businesses that are in the village, because if we don't, then they might not survive. And then that will change, you know, the face of the village forever. So, you know, it is about supporting the community. And, you know, even we're very blessed with takeaways, you know, and we're trying not to come out of lockdown 2 stone heavier. So we are limiting ourselves to 1 a week, but, you know, we have 5, I think, available to us. So it's just 1 a week. So we need a couple of weeks extra lockdown just so that we can get round them all.
Yeah, just do consecutive days, you'll be all right.
That's consecutive years in the gym then. So our last stakeholder is our investors. For those of us who are lucky enough to have investors, they are also stakeholders and people that you need to engage with. The government, obviously, we pay taxes sometimes, and we contribute to the GDP of the country, hopefully. It's the same standards. You have to let them know what's going on, and I'm sure that people will say, well, we'll feel that, you know, you're a very small cog to particularly to the government, but if you're not talking to those people, you're not understanding what's going on, you're not reading what they are putting out there. I mean, HMRC, for all their failings, do actually create really quite good content that is worth reading. Understand what they're finding difficult, and remember that there are people there too. And it doesn't hurt to try and make relationships there as well. Okay, does anybody want to add anything on that? Probably not. Right, so these are, if we go back to our triangle and what we were trying to achieve, these are the ways we strengthen all our teams. We can talk about specifics, which hopefully is what we've gone through, but at the end of the day, it is these 5 elements that are key. So it is trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results, and understanding that all your relationships should be built on these 5 principles. You know, what is the point of a marriage? Is in terms of the results factor is a bit of a difficult one, but, you know, lifelong support and understanding. I guess you can have these slides, so don't feel that you need to do anything with them. Is there anything anybody would like to add or say? Or I'm kind of done, I think.
Shall we? I'll stop the screen share, Mhairi, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Then you can see everybody's pretty faces. There they all are.
Hello.
This is when they all have to wake up again now. Okay, so have you got any comments for Mhairi, or questions while she's here live and available to you on Teams in general?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think we're in a transition now. I think this weekend's going to see quite a lot more people coming back to work. I know a lot of businesses that are starting to get moving. And I think that bit about trust and communication is going to be vital to make sure that the people they're employing are actually with them in this transition into getting back to work. Because a lot of people are scared, and other people have just fallen into a malaise of sitting at home and doing their own thing, and they're not really in that work mode. So I think there's going to be a lot of hard work over the next 6 to 8 weeks to get business is fully transitioned back into the economy.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think there's been so much about, you know, checking in on your teams and their well-being and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you've got a business to run, and times are really hard, and you need people to be at their best. And it's, you know, I don't want to kind of feel like the evil witch here, but, you know, we need to get people back moving and making sure they're productive. And like you say, it's the trust and communication thing is quite interesting from a political perspective as well, but I don't want to go down that wormhole. But you know, the press's job almost is to needle that, you know, we don't trust them, you know, they've done this wrong, they've done that wrong. It's constant bombardment of, you know, doubt and encourage us to question why things have been done that way. So I think there is a lot of there's a big lack of trust in society at the moment. So for businesses, it's almost more important to be really clear about what is going on and what works for each person as well. But then also balancing that with what the business needs. I haven't read any of the chat, sorry. Okay.
So I came across one model sort of for describing how teams form effectively. It's something you've probably come across, the sort of like forming, norming,
Tuckman, yeah.
forming, storming, norming and performing. Is that something that you think is still relevant? Do teams go through that process, or is that just a model that's been superseded by something like you've covered?
No, they all work. Tuckman recently has been under question, I think, but I do think, yes, teams do go through that cycle. It's, you know, teams very rarely stay consistent as well, so you're constantly changing. The players in the team keep changing. So then you have to reset. So that's why the Tuckman model works quite well, you know, because you're constantly going through forming and storming. But no, it is a good model. There are many more models. I'm just a big fan of it. From a brief presentation point of view, Lencioni works quite well. All the others take a long time to work through. So, but yeah, you use all of them in coaching.